Allah, my brothers and sisters, I am known on your planet as Prophet Muhammad, who wrote the Quran. It came from my soul and the universe. 5 times daily praying is admirable for the devotion to the Islam faith, but it's not enough. There needs to be a deeper connection with the soul and universe. When I was here in the Middle East, I was guided by the truth to a form of a meditative state of silence and the oneness of God. Your history is not accurate about my life on this planet. I had much more battles against the dark souls and lived much longer than into the 60s. I was at the age of 200 years old when I left this physical world. How is this possible? When you become a servant of Allah or God, nothing is impossible. I was not the only one to live this long. There are others who lived much longer. I was not forced out from my physical body by any disease or death. I left this world peacefully without any pain during my sleep, like most of your spiritual masters. As it was time for me to leave, my mission was finished in that life. You do not have a correct concept on how a savior would be like and behave if you had one on earth. He or she would be a spiritual master like Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Gandhi, Kuan Yin, Lao Tzu, and Echt. They would not have an ego. Instead, they would show humility and only telling the truth all of the time, trying to bring everyone together no matter on the differences, help the poor or needy. They would have no interest to be seen or to be constantly in front of the cameras boasting about their accomplishments. They would completely devote themselves to being a servant of Allah or God and not to themselves. Instead, humanity chose Donald Trump with a big ego to be their savior, who can't take any criticism without immediately lashing out by attacking with insults, negative names, and threatening people or countries on TV or on his social accounts. He often lies about different things and exaggerates his achievements. From a country of America whose dark government brought wars and destruction to this planet. It has 900 military bases around the world, not for peace or freedom, but for control and domination of other countries. They created and funded ISIS in the Middle East with weapons and money. Trump is driven by his ego to serve only himself, financially, politically, and darkness too, with a complete support for the negative government of Israel. The one who put tariffs on many countries around the globe only to benefit his own country. Trump is still sending weapons and providing military intelligence to Ukraine and had 12 billion sales of weapons, including more of the 2,000-pound bombs used on civilians to Israel. When he went to the Middle East, he did nothing to stop the starvation and slaughter of the Palestinians in Gaza. Instead, he went to the 3 richest countries of Islam, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, from which he received $400 million Boeing 747-8 luxury jet as a bribe gift. He recently, at a meeting in the White House, accused the South African president of a non-existent white farmers' genocide happening in his country. South Africa was the first country to take Israel to ICJ court for committing acts of genocide in Gaza. Don't expect for the one who got rich from the system to change the system, who sees himself as a king with all of the power. As he posted on the White House account a photo of him being a king and on his personal account of being a Vatican Pope, which most of them preyed on the children, to be the savior of humanity. Humans can continue to worship him blindly and make up stories about on what he is doing. It's not going to change the truth at all, that he is not a savior of humankind, as he only cares about himself. The Jewish people experienced the Holocaust in World War II, and yet they are allowing a genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza in their name to be committed by their government and military. It seems humanity has not learned anything from their dark history by letting evil still exist in the world today. There are still many who support on what is being done to the Palestinians in Gaza, blaming Hamas for starting this with its terrorist attack on the Jewish population. They are not being completely truthful and do not know the whole story. It was not a terrorist attack. It was a coordinated military operation with his special forces, with the main goal was to capture and take as many hostages as possible, which was achieved. With 251 of them, he can get many Palestinians for one Israeli. as there were over 20,000 Palestinians in prisons being tortured, starved, and even being abused by the Israeli doctors. Most of them did not commit any crime, are only there because they are Palestinians. So far, 2,497 Palestinians were exchanged for 142 alive Israeli. 82 hostages have left their physical bodies, many from the bombs dropped by Israel and starvation. As IDF soldiers have been constantly blocking food aid to Palestine, and some of the Israeli hostages were shot by their own soldiers, even when they were shirtless, with no weapons, holding a white flag and screaming in Hebrew, "Help!" Yes, many were killed in the Hamas operation, including Israeli civilians, but a lot of them were hit by the bullets coming from their own soldiers, as they are ordered not to allow any hostages to be taken alive and not to give Hamas any political leverage over Israel. Also, Israel knew this attack was coming and let it to happen, and used their own people as a sacrificial lamb to give them a perfect excuse to start a war. You think their Mossad intelligence agency did not see Hamas coming? Of course not. Mossad was able to put explosives in thousands of pagers and walkie-talkies belonging to Hezbollah. They were detonated simultaneously in Lebanon and Syria on September 17th and 18th, 2024. This operation resulted in 42 deaths, including 12 civilians and 4,000 injured. For the Israeli military intelligence agency not to see on what is happening on their country's own borders, it is just a lie. It was also a retaliation from the Hamas for the oppression of the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, who have been living in an outdoor prison run by Israel with a heavy military presence and checkpoints. They control everything and restrict Palestinians' access to resources like water, food, electricity, economy, and land movements. There is not enough electricity, food, drinkable water, medicine, jobs, no future, not much freedom. Only a physical death is waiting for them in not too distant future. They depend a lot on the international food aid from humanitarian organizations, from not starving to their human physical death. It's constantly being slowed down or completely blocked by the IDF soldiers. Israel country was formed by stealing land from the Muslims in that location. This has continued for decades. Anytime you oppress and try to eliminate a whole population of human beings anywhere around the world for a long time, they will eventually rebel. This is on what Hamas represents to the Palestinians, a resistance movement. Israel as an oppressor can't act like a victim when they are attacked, as they are purposely committing a genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza. There is no excuse to defend this act of evil. The Israeli military always justifies to bomb everything in Palestine because Hamas is everywhere. That is not true at all. Most of the time, his soldiers are underground in their long and elaborate tunnels, and usually only come out to fight the IDF soldiers. Everything is made there, like weapons, otherwise everything on the surface would have been destroyed by the bombs from the Israel's Air Force. As the Palestinian resistance does not have any armored vehicles like tanks or any fighter jets. The ones who still blame Hamas, the normal response would have been to go after his militants. Instead of doing airstrikes with 2,000 bombs on children and women and destroying all of the civilian buildings, Israeli soldiers are too scared to go into the tunnels and fight underground, as they will lose many of them. Recently, Israel launched a new operation, the Gideon's Chariots. The goal is to get more control of the Gaza Strip. It was always about the land and will be and nothing else until their own self-destruction, which they are heading towards. To force Palestinians from the territory any way possible, bomb, shoot, torture, starve, humiliate, abuse, and to suck the life out of them by forcing them to leave the land. Regardless if or not the world or the Middle East will come to the rescue to stop the genocide of the Palestinian brothers and sisters, especially the children and women. All of the evil the Israel government and their IDF soldiers unleashed on Palestine, all of it will come back to them, every drop of it. They will receive the same mercy as they gave to the Palestinians, which is none. It already has begun with a huge fire burning about 6,000 acres of land in Israel, including a tornado spinning with fire, which is not a good sign for the dark souls in that country. There was a flood too, in a different location. The Israeli government does not care about their own people. If things do not change drastically, it will lead to the destruction of the whole country. For the ones who still feel justified to support the genocide of the Palestinians, they will receive their just reward too, for supporting darkness with their energy and soul and losing their humanity. As there is no excuse not to know on what is the truth and on what is humane today. There is a lot of information and technology available to receive the real truth in your modern times. Unite my brothers and sisters around the world in the countries where you are being oppressed. Remove those leaders from power who serve only darkness and themselves. Bring peace and love to humanity, which has been waiting for a long time for it to come, by extinguishing the flame of evil on earth. You should have figured out by now that protests do not do anything. The rules for them were created by darkness. As you're standing outside in the streets peacefully or shouting angrily, the ones in power are sitting comfortably inside the buildings, doing their usual business of serving evil and themselves. You need to physically remove them from their positions of power. You outnumbered them by billions in the world and by millions in most of the countries, depending on the size of the population. They do not have enough police or soldiers to stop all of you. Many of them have families. It would be very hard for them to follow orders, to attack their own family members in the streets. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bring peace, mercy, and blessings upon you. Prophet Muhammad, channeled by Erena Velazquez, Ambassador of Galactic Light Force.
سجل يا بلال جوا من الأرض خلص طيب يلا
عن النبي العظيم
Would you like me to sign this?
غز نور العين شعبك بوجه العدوان صامد وما زال دام العزم دام يا ضارب حمى الرحمن
תעשי וידאו.
לא, תסמר.
אני נוסע, תעשי וידאו.
יש וידאו, תעוף.
תראי מה זה, על הכביש.
יהודה, אם אתה לא טס מהר אני הורגת אותך.
אנחנו בתוך האש. שב פה, תעלה. يا وردينا. طلع طلع طلع.
شارع اللطرون دير بالك.
هاي السيارات هاي بلش يولعوا السيارات كمان. بلش يولعوا السيارات كمان. الله أكبر.